What's up and welcome back. Last time we stopped at the delete function for the recipe book backend. So we created the delete recipe, create recipe, get recipe by ID, get specific one, get the category, and now we need to have the ability to update it. So as I said, we want to finish the backend like 80% before starting with the front end. So the API view for updating data it's called put request. So put, but we still need to get data from the front end. So we need to get the primary key, so the ID of the object that we want to update. Now to actually make this possible, we need to do a try and except because the queries can give some errors. Recipe will be recipe that objects that get. And we need to get the ID of the primary key got from the URL. So we have the recipe that we want to update. We can get the steps that we want to update, but firstly, let's get the data sent from the front end. So the data is like an object got from the front end, which is having all the data that we want to apply for updating our database. So we can get this object by doing data equal to request.data. I want to get the name from the data. So name updated name will be equal to data name. So we want to get the name from this data. We're going to see that on the front end. Just pay attention. Once we send this data from the front end, we are going to see the object that we are sending. So we are creating this data. Just wait until the front end comes in the video. Updated, let's see, image is going to be equal to data and image. But actually, I want to do request that files that get image because the image is a more specific type of data that we want to get. If the updated name is null, so is none, the updated name will remain the initial name, so recipe.name. If updated image is none, so it's empty, it's nothing, it's none, will remain the original one, so recipe.image. Okay. And to actually update it, we can use the serializer. So serializer is going to be equal to, let's see, regular recipe serializer. We have to send the recipe object that I want to update, and the data to update will be the name. So I only want to be able to update the name and the image. So updated image, and here should be updated name. I'm going to specify partial equal to true. So partial, okay. Because we don't want to be able to update only the name and the image, so it's a partial update. If serializer dot is valid, so if this is going to be something like okay, true or false, so we can update with this data, or the data doesn't satisfy our expectation, so we shouldn't apply the update. So if everything is valid, we can update. Okay, we want to do the same for the array. From the front end, we have to get so every recipe will have some steps and some ingredients. And the steps and the ingredients will be represented as, will be represented from the front end. So we will get an array of steps for this specific recipe that we want to update, and an array of ingredients. This array will have the object of the ingredient. Actually, the array is going to have elements, objects, so an array of objects, which will have the ID for the step and the updated name. So something like this. So an array of steps, which is going to be an array of objects, and every object is having the ID and the step update it. So the new name for the step, because the steps they are having only the name to update, so it's pretty easy. But we need to get the array of the ID and the step updated name. So we want to iterate the array, and for every ID we get the step from the database with this ID and update it with the data. So the name, the new name, as we did with the recipe. It's just an array of objects. The recipe is just one. So let's see. Trust me, you're going to understand it when we send the data. So to actually do that, we can do something like steps. Will be request that, or just data of steps. We need to iterate it. So for step in steps, let's get the ID from this object. Step ID will be step ID, and get the actual object from the database with this ID. So step.objects.get ID equal to step ID. Now let's try to update it. So the serializer equal to step serializer that we created in the last video. We want to send the object that we want to update and the new data. So step, because the step is having the ID and the new data to update, so we just send it here as we did with this one. Okay, when we are sending this data from the front end, I will do another review for the view, so you can actually see the relationship between the request, post, etc. So I will explain the backend more detailed in the future videos too. So it's not just this, but you have to see how we send the data. That's all. It's going to be more easier to understand why we do what we do. If serializer that is valid, we can save it. So serializer that save. I want to do the same for the ingredients. So just replace it with the ingredients for ingredients. Get the ingredient of ID, get the object from the database, so ingredient.object.get with this ID, ingredient serializer, send the object and the data to update. If everything is fine, just save it. If we get an error, so the try doesn't work, except, let's see, exception as E, we can just return the error to the front end so we can understand why something didn't work. So message will be equal to the error. And that's the update. So we can create a URL for this one too. Update recipe. I want to call the update recipe function, and we can give it a name of update. It is fine. What we need to do now, every recipe is going to have an image. And to actually see the image, yes, we can save it. So I want to show this to you. Let me just open the server. I have an error on line 99. Yep, we don't need this one. Let me just open the server, go to the admin recipe. Let's get the protein shake and choose a file. Let's see, downloads. I just add the coffee too. Save it. So I added an image, and from what you can see, the image got saved randomly in the base deal folder, so in the main folder, because the Django doesn't really know where to save them. So we need to specify that we have a folder static where we want to have another folder images and save those images right here. And the other problem is that if I go to the protein shake, I can't really see the image anyway because we need to create a path to see the image. Okay, how we can do this? Well, we need to make some simple configuration. So go to the backend settings. So in the main settings, if we go down right here, let's see. So static files dirs is going to be equal to. So to find these static files, we go to the main directory and go to the folder name static. The media URL is going to be equal to images. So we have the images folder where we want and have to store the images. And to get the root, we need to go to the os.path, the join. So we have to go to the base dir because in the base directory, so this is the base dir. In the main folder, we have the folder static images. And now if I add another photo, let me go to delicious pasta, choose a random image, open, save it. If I go to backend, you can see in the static that it got saved here in the images, so it worked fine. So we know that everything we save is going to be added here. Okay, and if I go to delicious pasta and click the image, if we go to the static slash images and the image name, we got the image. So this is how we can get the image in the front end too. So we send this path static dash images and the image name, and we can actually use that image for the backend because we need to show the images for the recipes. Okay, that's good. We can, let me just think for a second, we can actually have a default image maybe. So if we create a recipe, maybe we don't want to save it with I don't know, a specific image, and we can have a default one. So how you can do this? We can go to the API. Let's go to the model. So we can specify which image. So let me just grab, go to the downloads, get a random image that you want to have if you don't specify a certain image. And now at the recipe in the image, we can specify where to go to find our image that we want to apply. So let's say that we want to create a recipe, but we don't really want to give it, I don't know, an image. I want to save it without an image, and we want to add a default one. So it's pretty simple. You just have to go to default. So the default image will be, so the Django knows that it has to go to the static and then images to find the images. This is why we did a set this configuration, and we just need to go to placeholder. We just name this one to placeholder. So placeholder.png, and let me just try and create an image without giving it a name, but because we made some changes in the backend, we have to apply migrations. So it showed me that we altered the field image and we want to actually make the update it. So we migrate. Now let's go back to the admin panel, create a recipe. So recipes, create just a random name. They don't want to choose a file. So save, random, and then got this one. And if we go to the static, let me just refresh this one. So static dash images, you can see actually the image, and it didn't create it again that image because it just went to the static images and got the default placeholder PNG. So we can create images with we can create recipes without adding an image. Okay, this should be fine. I think that that's it for the moment for the backend. So in the next video, we are going to start with the React application. So what we did is we created the models, recipe model, ingredient steps. One recipe can have more ingredients and more steps. We created the serializers to send the data and update the data. And we have the basic functionalities in the views and the possibility to save images. Okay, so in the next video we will start with the front end where we are going to actually call these URLs. So we want to use the APIs to get the data, update data, delete data, show the images, so show the data. So it's going to be really interesting. See you there.